Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a legitimately terrifying account from the Australian outback. This is one of those experiences so incredibly unsettling, it's going to make you think twice about ever venturing off the beaten path. We're breaking down the story of Lachie Brooks. He's a guy who took what he thought was a totally standard outback maintenance job, only to step right into an absolute supernatural nightmare. So grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's unravel the mystery of Kurranda Station. To really set the tone here, we've got to start with Lachie's exact words. He said, "Ever had one of those trips where everything feels a bit off from the start? Not full-on wrong, just crooked. Like the land itself is having a lend of you." That right there immediately establishes this eerie, unsettling atmosphere. You know, he's letting us know right out of the gate that the normal rules of reality, they just weren't applying to him on this trip.
All right, part one, the wrong turn.
So, our guy here is Lachie. He's a Sparky, an electrician from Toowoomba, picking up some remote work after a pretty tough divorce. He gets a call from a desperate-sounding bloke needing urgent work on a bore pump and a generator out at a place called Kurranda Station, way out past Boulia. The money? Well, it was way too good to pass up, so he packs his ute and heads west. But man, he was walking into a totally brutal environment, 43 degrees Celsius. To put that in perspective, that is bone-dry, unforgiving, oven-like heat. The drive itself was this grueling 6-hour slog on dirt roads with red dust just flying everywhere. His GPS completely drops out around the Diamantina River, forcing him to rely on this hand-drawn map. Think about that level of extreme isolation for a second. He's entirely disconnected from the outside world, driving into a landscape that's as hostile as it is completely empty.
The details of his arrival, well, they're incredibly mundane but deeply, deeply unsettling. He pulls up to these massive rusted gates hanging crookedly on their hinges, and there's a no trespassers sign that's just been shot to pieces. The homestead itself is this classic wide veranda Queenslander, completely surrounded by dead silence. I mean, no people, no cattle, nothing. And when he goes inside, the house is unlocked, it smells strongly of dust and old leather. There are family photos from the 80s or 90s still hanging up on the walls. Mugs are literally still sitting in the sink, and there's a kid's drawing pinned to the fridge. The place wasn't just abandoned, it was left in an absolute hurry. Which brings us to part two, signs you're not alone.
Despite the obvious creepiness, Lachie tells himself, a job is a job. He unloads his gear in that sweltering heat, works through the whole afternoon, and actually manages to get the main generator humming again. Lights on. A small victory, right? But that night, as he's sleeping in the main bedroom, he is suddenly jolted awake at 3 a.m. by the sound of a screen door slamming somewhere in the house. He chalks it up to the wind. Classic mistake. Because as his 3 days at the station progress, this clear, undeniable pattern of creeping dread builds. By day 2, he's finding fresh hoofprints in the yards without a single cow in sight, and get this, boot prints matching his exact shoe size near an old, rusted-out truck. By day 3, communication is totally dead, a massive storm is rolling in, and the pacing shifts from quiet isolation to absolute full-blown panic.
And here's where things get super weird. While exploring the house on day 2, Lachie makes this chilling discovery in the kitchen. The calendar on the wall, it stopped in March 2019. Think about that for a second, a massive multi-year gap. But sitting right there in the fridge is long-life milk that is perfectly sealed and still completely in date. It makes absolutely zero logical sense. It's like the timeline of the house itself is entirely fractured. So, things escalate incredibly fast on night 2. He decides he's had enough, tries to leave, only to find his ute starter motor is completely dead. And worse, the dirt track he drove in on has literally vanished, just gone, replaced by endless spin effects and red dirt. He is trapped. Back in the house, the lights start flickering wildly, even though the generator is running perfectly outside. Then he hears heavy boots walking right up to the front door on the veranda. And at midnight, doors start banging all over the house, followed by the crystal clear sound of a little girl giggling. Yeah, no thank you.
Moving into part 3, the station remembers.
Day 3 breaks, and Lachie is in full-on survival mode. He's walking the perimeter, desperate to find a way out, and he actually discovers a family graveyard behind the house. 3 small graves, 2 big ones, and the names match the photos inside. As the afternoon hits, the temperature just plummets. A massive Outback storm rolls in, absolutely hammering the tin roof, and the house itself starts groaning and creaking in these rhythmic patterns, almost like it's breathing. With his radio dead, Lachie is searching the main bedroom and finds a diary. It belonged to the station owner's wife. The entries are frantic. She's writing about the kids seeing a tall man by the windmill and how a husband went out one night and just never came back. Then he turns to the final smeared page. It just says, "If you're reading this, run." The absolute second he slams that diary shut, every single door in the house slams at once, and the power completely cuts out. He grabs his torch, moving through the pitch black. He goes outside to check the generator, and out there, in the pouring rain, he feels cold, incredibly strong hands grab his shoulders, literally pulling him toward an old well. He fights for his life, slipping in the mud, and somehow manages to crawl back inside the house. But when he gets back in, the diary is sitting open to a brand new page, a page he absolutely did not write. It says, "Welcome to the family, Lachie."
The climax of this incredibly long night is just pure adrenaline-fueled terror. Lachie barricades himself in the main room. He looks over and notices the kids' toys in the other room are now arranged in a perfect, flawless circle. Then the voices start. The station owner's voice telling him to stay. Kids begging him to play. He's yelling at them to show themselves, and, well, they do. When he looks in the large mirror above the fireplace, he sees the entire family standing right behind him. Pale skin, pitch black eyes, just smiling. Lachie absolutely loses it. He smashes every mirror in the house as these unseen entities grow furious, throwing furniture and slamming doors all night long.
Okay, part 4, the escape and twist. At some point during that horrific night, Lachie actually blacks out. When he finally wakes up, there's just dead silence. The rain has stopped, sunlight is streaming through the windows. He looks outside and sees his utes. The engine is running, the keys are in the ignition, and his tools are neatly packed in the tray. He doesn't even hesitate. He jumps in, floors it, and finds that the dirt track out is magically back, clear as day. He drives like a madman for 2 hours straight until he reaches the Boulia police station, practically hyperventilating, and tells them everything. But the cops, they look at him like he's lost his mind. See, Lachie's Kurranda Station had a working generator, toys on the floor, perfectly preserved photos. But the real Kurranda Station? The police inform him that the place completely burned to the ground in 2019. The entire family perished in the fire, and literally no one has lived there or rebuilt it since. Lachie's frantically showing them the photos on his phone to prove it, photos of a perfect unburned house. The cops just go dead quiet and tell him they'll check it out. 2 days later, Lachie gets a phone call from the police that absolutely shatters whatever false sense of safety he thought he had. They tell him, "We found your ute out there, Lachie. 50 Ks from the station. Doors open. Engine running. No sign of you. Until we looked inside the house." What does this even mean? Lachie is sitting in his apartment in Toowoomba taking this call. Did a piece of him never leave? Was the thing that drove back to town really him?
To this day, he says if he looks in his bathroom mirror for too long, he still sees that pale family standing behind him, smiling, waiting.
Finally, part 5, Outback Survival Rules. Let's take a step back from the pure terror of Lachie's account for a second and look at what this lore actually teaches us. The Outback is vast, it's ancient, and it is totally unforgiving. Stories like Kurranda Station serve as these dark fables for remote travel. So if you ever find yourself broken down or lost near an old abandoned cattle station, remember these rules. 1. Stay with your vehicle. 2. Do not go inside those old homesteads after dark. 3. If you hear voices calling out from the scrub, especially voices that somehow know your name, absolutely do not answer them. And 4. Honestly, the most important lesson from Lachie's ordeal, whatever you do, don't fix their generator. The land out there remembers, the stations remember, and sometimes, it seems, they just need a new pair of hands to keep the lights on. So, we're wrapping up this explainer on that incredibly unsettling note. The Australian outback holds on to its secrets tightly, and not every place on the map is meant to be visited. It really makes you wonder about the energy left behind in isolated places, doesn't it? So, I'm going to leave you with this final, lingering thought to ponder tonight. Have you ever stayed somewhere that just didn't want to let you leave? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you next time.